Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. And if you haven't figured it out by now, if a thumbnail says not clickbait, that's probably a clickbait title. So one of the things that I want to talk about in this video is that there's no such thing as a free lunch. Have you ever heard that phrase? Like there's no such thing as a free lunch? I think I first learned that in an economics class, and it talks about how like politicians always like to talk about the extreme ideal world that we can achieve, and they never seem to just base their thoughts on reality, right? So, for example, perfect example of this is like rent control. Oh, if we put a control on the rent, then landlords just can't raise their prices anymore. And then what happens when you do that is that there's going to be less supply of houses on the market, right? Same thing with minimum wage. Like we just increase the minimum wage and people will get paid more, right? And then you saw the news about like, and let me actually just Google this right now. California minimum wage firings. So let's take a look at the news. Mass layoffs begin in California as corporations retaliate against new state wage minimum wage laws. Pizza Hut franchises in California lay off all delivery drivers ahead of minimum wage increases. So back to my point, and regardless of what the causes of that are, and you could argue a lot of things, I'm just going to say that there's no such thing as a free lunch. Right. And that's the same with loans, lines of credit. So, people would argue, like, hey, if you get a home equity line of credit, they could take your house away. Well, they could do that with a mortgage too, right? Like, so if by that train of thought, everybody should pay for the house all cash. But here's the other thing too. If you have a paid off home, there's no free lunch because that's a risk too. Why? Because if you get sued and they win a judgment, guess what? Your equity's at risk. Whereas if you had a mortgage, they wouldn't think about taking your home and forcing a foreclosure on it, right? So you see, like, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And so one of the things I want to talk about is that whatever you're doing, know all the ins and outs, and if the good outweighs the bad, then go for it, right? Whether you're doing HELOCs, home, velocity banking, whatever it is, and so with the HELOC, even for those lenders who do HELOCs, they have a risk too, right? Because usually they're in something called second position. I'm not going to go too much into this, but if you're a second position lender and you foreclose, right, and you because someone didn't pay you and they have to sell the property at auction, they have to pay the first position first, and if there's not enough meat in the bone on the sale to pay both of you, you don't get anything. Only a first person gets paid. Again, there's a risk in everything, right? Even from the lender and borrower's point of view. Okay, that's just how life works. And so there's no such thing as this ideal society where you can accomplish every single thing and have absolutely no risk to you, right? And this reminds me of a class that I took. So if you don't know anything about our group, we share classes, and one of the classes that we share from instructors that are more qualified than I am, one of the classes is business credit. And one of the things that the business credit instructor talks about is that so many people are looking to skip steps and cheat the system, and they're looking for this perfect world where they can get the following. So for example, oh, I have a business and it's a startup, but I have bad personal credit, I have no revenue, I don't want to give a personal guarantee, I don't want it to report to my personal credit, I don't want to give my tax returns, and I want it to be 0% interest, right? And he says, yes, these are possible, but not all of them, right? So again, but so many people, um, and he's talking specifically about business credit. When it comes to business credit, they want everything and they act like it's possible, right? And that's the same thing with velocity banking, home equity lines of credit. And heck, you can make an argument that, hey, other methods are superior in certain ways. Like I don't ever say in this channel, oh, this is the thing that will satisfy all the requirements, because there's always a trade-off, right? Everything has a trade-off. Okay, I mean in the lending world, right? If you give collateral, they'll give you better rates and higher limits. That's what a home equity line of credit is. But the catch is you have to give collateral, right? And so again, everything has a catch. Everything has a good and a bad, trade-offs and all that good stuff. And so you just have to assess in your life, are you okay with those trade-offs? Right? There's no such thing as a free lunch. I mean, think about if you were the one who was the bank and you issued a home equity line of credit, yeah, the borrower doesn't pay you, and then you have to foreclose. And turns out, like I said before, the house has to go to auction. You hope to get paid off, but guess what? The guy has so much debt that the sale price at the auction didn't cover, um, only covered enough for the first person or the first lien's debt, right? If you don't know what I mean by that, look up the term lien and auctions and all that. But what I'm saying is there's a huge risk to you, even as a lender, if you're going to be in second position and you're not going to get paid, right? Everything's a risk. You get what I'm saying? So again, don't, I always want you to make informed decisions, but don't be overcome by fear because, if, you know, for whatever reason, and this is the strangest thing about society, we live in a 50% failure rate society, right? And nobody ever complains about that. In fact, in 2023, last year, 93% of homeowners um, regretted buying a home. 93%. But what's funny is when you do something a little bit different from the rest of society, people will act like it's the end of the world when we don't seem to care about the all the failures that we have in most of the population, depression, people graduating at college with an insane amount of student debt with no job prospects. No, but very few people care about that, except for maybe like Dave Ramsey. I really like Dave Ramsey. And again, we don't. I don't follow his methods to the T, but I like what he has to say. Right? I mean, I have over $240,000 in credit cards and lines of credit, and I don't think Dave would be happy about that. But what I'm saying is that when people, whatever dysfunction is a norm, people just don't complain about it. But when you do something that's a little bit out there, and I could just tell you from my own personal experience, like for example, I'm heavily into juicing fruits and vegetables. People complain about it, right? They really complain about like you're I don't know doing something egregious just because you're doing something a little bit different with your life. And velocity banking, folks, is really not that hard. It's just put your entire paycheck in line of credit, and that's it. Well, so that's it for today. I don't know what else to say, but other than that, we don't live in a perfect world and everything else has a trade-off. And so just, assess your risk and we'll be good. All right. So if you're interested in learning about financial literacy and real estate investing and some other cool stuff, go ahead and click the Google form link below. We'll get on a one-on-one chat to see if you're interested in joining our group. Other than that, have a great day, everybody, and we will speak next time.